Today is November 18th, and we are talking Yankees prospects. The Rule 5 draft is coming up. There are some fun stories about guys we like back when they were on the farm, and we got some other stuff to talk about it. Let's do it. Let's talk Yanks.
Talking Yanks with old John Boy and Jake. Recaps galore and weekly awards. Stat lines, steaming hot takes. Get your Yankees news with these two fine dudes. It's time for Talking Yanks. Talking Yanks with old John Boy and Jake. Talking Yanks with old John Boy and Jake.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us today. My name is John Boy. I'm coming to you from, I was about to say New Jersey. I'm coming to you from New York City. I got my co-host Jake wearing a Jake Sucks hat, coming to you from Denver. Jake, how are you doing? Welcome to Talkin' Yanks.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hey.
Live from New Jersey, huh?
Nope. Take it back.
Psychedelic flashback.
Ooh.
Man, we got some good stuff coming up. The people don't even know.
The people, they don't even know. They got no idea. Zero idea. How you doing, Jake? How you been?
Good, dude. Had a nice weekend. Did Colorado stuff. Skied on Saturday. Golfed on Sunday. And yeah, man, we just had a cool interview where we talked some prospects, which that gets my rocks off a little bit. And yeah, if you
say
hear
rocks off, what do you mean?
Ooh, we'll get there. And yeah, if you hear some squeaking, Noodle the Doodle Dog is livid that we haven't gone OUT yet. So he's starting to get real gnarly with me.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Do you think Noodle is more mad at you than Astros fans are mad at me?
No, impossible. Well, no, and that's we'll dive right in, Jim, because we haven't talked the Astros on here really, and no, because I think Astros fans are 80% of them are probably nice, logical people that like baseball and are disheartened at how ugly this thing is getting, and it gets worse and worse by the day, pretty much. It feels like we find out a new thing. It sucks for the 20% of angry, back against the wall, cocky Astro fans that are hiding behind a fake identity that are, who cares, man? We're that flag flies, and it's like it's starting to get to the point where that flag might not fly.
It's looking real bad for the Houston Astros. Really bad.
Good networking for you and the people of Houston.
Yeah, I'm making friends for sure. Honestly, like today, they're fucking, I don't know, radio people or like legit news writers for Houston came at me. Like,
yeah,
I understand some crazy people on Twitter that don't have the ability to think critically. Like, I understand that those people exist, but like, I didn't think people with like public jobs would not know how to think critically and like not understand. I'm not reporting. I'm just putting visuals to reports. Like, honestly, it's nuts. So I'm getting attacked left and right. It's really not fun. I almost like had like, I turned off all my notifications because my phone's going too slow and like they're really mean, man. And I'm and they just read one tweet, so they don't know anything about anything. I'm sick of it.
You're a salty Yankee fan. You're adding in horns and bonking noises, and now you're making up some sort of Band-Aids. You photoshopped the video production thing they had going on. I mean, it's a house of lies you've built on pure facts.
What the ones I hate the most, and I shouldn't give this to them, is like I hate when they're like, you're just chasing clout. And it's like, well, like I'm entertaining, trying to entertain people, which in turn like gets more people to follow me, because obviously.
Yeah.
If you're posting on Twitter and your goal isn't to get people to see it and enjoy it, what the hell are you doing? Get off Twitter. Yeah. Imagine you're just posting this so people will read it and enjoy it and follow you. Well, yeah. Oh yeah.
Asshole.
I had one today, and I was really gonna quote tweet it or reply, but I know I shouldn't. And it was like, "Are your parents happy that you don't have a job, or are they losers too?" And I wanted to like be like, "Well, my dad sucks at wearing hats. Does that count?"
Yeah.
But then I thought my dad would be upset by that.
Oh, he'd be so mad if you ever mentioned that on a podcast. He'd be a wreck.
Living. My dad's a crazy hat wearer, dude. He just grabs any hat and puts it on his head. Like, he'd wear a yarmulke and wear it like a baseball cap. It's nuts.
Swag.
So, yeah. Do you think the Yankees cheated?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's our guy Adani posted that video today of Cora from from the London series and how much love he gave to Beltran, and he's like, yeah, they use some different devices now, and it's like, oh boy, wish you phrased that differently now.
He literally, Cora winked in that press conference.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, okay. So I don't know, man. It's crazy to think about how far the wormhole goes. I'd say the thing that is differently that, this is something I'm passionate of, and a lot of our Talkin' Yanks fans have been listening to Talkin' Baseball, so we thank you guys for that. It's been going really well. Is that organizations are run from the top down, and it's hard for me to believe that Brian Cashman would say, "Oh, you want to set up a video camera and come up with a stealing signs and cheating system?" Tough for me to think that would happen. Who knows, man? I mean, is there a little bit of fear factor? Yes. I don't know, man. That Cora guy, he's the manager of the Red Sox. I feel like the biggest thing Beltran provided was like letting the Yankees know what's up.
Yeah. Use different signals.
I mean, when did we start doing the hat with all our different sequencing? Was that the start of this year or last year?
This year, but I thought it was because of limited mound visits.
Yeah, Noodle just basically tackled my laptop. Things have gotten physical over here.
All right, well, we have an interview coming up with Robert Pimpsner, who's been covering the Yankees.
Are you nervous about Yankee stuff?
About the Yankees stuff?
I mean, just Beltran being involved and like what could leak out? Like, what's worst case?
Dude, so what I've been like kind of told or whatever is that the Astros players thought some of them genuinely thought this is going on all throughout baseball.
Right.
So they did it. But like to the extent that they were doing it, really no one else was doing that in baseball. Like there's sign stealing, and there's these thing where teams videotape the catcher's signs, right? And they put them in an algorithm, and then you put like, these are what the signs flashed, this is what the pitch was. And you do that for previous games, and it lets you know the sequence. So then you can kind of pick the signs apart better on second base. Like, I know that there's like that, and like I heard a lot of teams do that type of stuff. But I heard that like Astros players are going to be shocked to find out they may be one of the only teams going to this extent. Like they thought it was rampant, and it's not.
Yeah, I kind of had that realization today too, because it's part of the Astros story, right? I mean, it's this homegrown core of hitters. It's Correa, it's Bregman, it's Altuve, it's Springer. It's guys that have really only been affiliated with Houston. The only hitter that really came from the outside is Brantley this year. Well, I don't know. Maybe Michael. I don't know. Like I would be so interested to hear how that conversation went for the first time. And it's like, hey man, after if you hear a bang come from the dugout off speed, like, excuse me.
What? How? No, we know. Don't worry about it. Yeah,
you're good.
I don't know. All right. Yeah, man. I don't know. We'll see. But I think it's going to be bad for the Astros. Let's go to a quick break, and then you'll hear a lot about the minor league system and the Rule 5 draft from Robert Pimpsner. We are joined now by Robert. We are joined now with Jake. What would you say?
Oh, man.
By?
And cut. Thanks for joining us, Robert. This was fun.
What do you say?
We're joined
there? We're joined by Robert M. Pimpsner, founder of PinstripedProspects.com, the only place you go to find out about the Yankees minor league system. You've been running this forever, Robert, and it's pretty informative, and we're excited to have you on to teach us a thing or two about the farm system. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Doing well, and thank you for having me. And it's been a fun ride I've been on covering the Yankees minor league system the last decade plus, and 5 years now with Pinstripe Prospects.
Yeah, you've been at it a long time. So 5 years ago you started Pinstripe Prospects?
Yeah, it was essentially my return to the game. I was graduated college, and I was like, you know what? I was going to step away, and then I kept getting a lot of requests to come back and write about the minor league system, so I decided to create Pinstripe Prospects and create my vision of what prospect coverage should be.
Okay,
so do you get that prospect rush? Like, is it for you? Is it kind of finding a new band, and being like, oh, that band is going to have an awesome cutter in 5 years, or what gets you passionate about the young guys?
You know, I've always been more of a grassroots type of guy. I'm an old school scouting guy first.
Nice.
My background is I became friends with the Yankees area scout when I was 14 years old, and he taught me everything about scouting at a young age and like how to look at guys and how to evaluate guys. And more recently, I've really gotten into the advanced stuff. So when it comes down to it, it's just like that rush of just being able to find a guy and say, I knew him. I remember when I saw that potential in him. And it's just going back to when I started, you know, my first full year covering the Yankees minor league system was 2003. And that year we had Melky Cabrera in Staten Island. And I just remember watching him and being like, that guy's good.
Melky was the next Bernie Williams. Like, he was talked about. Then he got called up. He got called up for like 10 games in 2005, did awful, and they sent him back. Then he came back, and I liked Melky a whole bunch. Who's been your favorite prospect that you've seen graduate and become successful? That this audience that isn't deep into the farm system but loves the Yankees, that, like you say, I knew him when. Like, you have a lot to choose from now, and you've been doing it for so long. Is there one guy you're like, I was on him?
You know, there's a couple of guys that I really like. I remember Brett Gardner in 2005 with Staten Island when he first came in, only inside the park home run in Staten Island Yankees history. And I remember watching him play and be like, wow, and being blown away by his speed and the way he played the game. But if I had to pick a favorite guy that had graduated to the major leagues, probably wouldn't be a guy that many people talk about, but it would be Pat Venditti. Such a great guy. I'm sure you guys heard of the switch pitching and all that fun stuff. You know, him and I became pretty good friends, and you know, his family's phenomenal. He's just such a great guy, and you know, he's just to see the success he's had in the minors and being able to live out his dream of being a Major League Baseball player. I wish him the best of luck, and I wish he get a better shot at the big leagues.
Yeah, and for those who aren't familiar, he's the guy that can throw with both arms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a Jersey guy. I always thought it was kind of odd that like, hey, how come you can throw with both arms? He was like, well, my dad trained me from birth. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. You really only had one option.
You ever seen the actual glove, which is really cool because it has 2 thumb holes, so you can easily switch. It's completely custom made.
So were you covering the minors when he made the umps establish the rule? Remember, there was that whole battle where he stepped out and switched to lefty, and the batter switched to righty, and then the batter switched to lefty, and then they were like, all right, well, who makes the rules here? I remember that being a wild story. So you were there. A moment in history.
It was an incredible moment in history. I mean, I wish we had better quality video of it. But, you know, when it came down to it, this is amazing to watch.
Yeah. It was, it birthed the rule.
Yeah.
And
the Venditti rule.
It sucks that he's as of right now, he's kind of remembered as that, which is kind of tough, but kind of cool at the same time. I love prospects. I play a nerdy baseball game. I don't know if you know Out of the Park Baseball or not, but that gives Oh yeah, my man. So I don't know. I dive pretty deep in there, and I mean it gives me a good general knowledge of what's going on, and then I can look some things up from there. I'm also a huge NFL draft guy, and I love getting value and stock, and what we're gonna talk about a guy in Florial a little bit who we'll talk about how his stock has changed a little bit. I mean, how do you get an attachment to these guys? Are there guys that are climbing their ranks, and you're like, Jesus Montero, man, that guy is going to change the game, borderline Hall of Famer, and then he hits the big leagues, and you're like, damn. Or how does that process go for you?
It's tough, especially when it comes to ranking players. When it comes down to it, everyone has their own system of ranking players, and a lot of it is very subjective to whatever your biases are. Some people are biased towards the players that are closer to the big leagues, which is why you'll see a system like the Yankees not ranked high when it comes to organizational rankings, because those rankings really take into account AA and AAA talent versus guys that are really high on projection, and that's where you get the guys at the lower end of the spectrum, your rookie league guys, your Class A short season guys, your Class A guys that are further away but could become something huge because there's a lot of potential there, but there's also extreme risk. So it's very hard to really rank those guys. And to answer your question, I do get attached to some of these guys, more than others. There's plenty of guys that I've met over the years be like, you got $1 million talent, but you're dumb as hell, and you're not going to know how to harness that talent, and it's sad to see because there's so many of them. And Jesus Montero, man, that guy could have been something if his head was on straight. That's just a talent wasted right there.
So this is a weird question, but a lot of the guys that cover the AAA guys, and we're kind of talking about you get attached to them. A lot of the guys that cover the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders, they get like very protective of these guys to the point where, correct me if I'm wrong, I find, are you hard on any prospects? Like Jake did a podcast covering UConn Huskies, and he also does the Knicks. And I asked him at one point, are you easier on the Huskies than the Knicks, like when they're bad, because they're just kids? And he was like, yeah, naturally you kind of are. Do you think covering the minor leagues, that reporters or people that cover are naturally like a little easier, like want them to grow? Like you have like beat writers that cover major league teams that are kind of nasty, but I feel like all minor league reporters are kind of nice. It's like a nice environment to be in, and everyone's kind of rooting for them. Would you say that's true?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, there's some people that are just not nice people that do cover the minors, but for the most part, everyone's pretty good. You're kind of protective. You're kind of understanding that these guys do not have the media training that the guys in the major leagues have, so they may say something that might not be good for them or good for the organization. So you may not print it. The best advice, and this came from Chad Jennings, former Yankees beat writer, now covering the Red Sox for The Athletic. Me and him talked a lot when he was a Scranton beat writer, and he said, the best beat writers only print 50% of what they see and hear. The trick is knowing which 50% to print.
Yeah. That's good.
There's so much that I am privy to that I do not talk about.
Yeah.
Eventually some of that stuff does get out, but, just from my personal relationship with the Yankees and relationship with the players, there's a lot of stuff I just would not talk about publicly.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have things that come our way that we're like, let's leave that alone and not discuss it and stuff like that. So I get that. You mentioned Brett Gardner being one of your favorite prospects to watch back then. Was it wild for you to see the transformation of no prospect in the system getting a shot? Brett Gardner talks about he never thought he'd get called up by the Yankees because they didn't call up prospects to stay. They traded them away and they got free agents. And he was just shocked that like he made it all the way through the minor leagues and then to the Yankees before moving on, or, they bring in a free agent center fielder. And now the Yankees just moved on. You saw Judge, Gary, Sevy. I mean, we can go on, Glaber, Andujar. Like, was that different for you? Like, oh, wow, these guys actually are going to be Yankees.
Oh, yeah. Major difference, because back in the day, it would be like, I really like this guy. I hope he gets traded to another team so he gets a shot. Yeah, I was actually back when he was coming up to the minors, I was kind of hoping Gardner would go to the Mets because I thought his style of play fit the National League so much better. I thought he would get a better shot with the Mets. And, when it comes down to it, the Yankees just, especially in the early 2000s, they were not calling up minor leaguers. So
Yeah.
it was hard.
Yeah, you're kind of just trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah. All right. So we have a lot of minor leaguers in the Rule 5 draft, and Jake and I have discussed the Rule 5 draft a lot on Talkin' Yanks, but we probably have some new audience members that aren't familiar with it. The Rule 5 draft, or I can explain it, or Jake or Robert, you guys want to take it? I explained it earlier today. I want me to just do it again, Jake?
Let it rip, kid. Follow your heart. And then I want you to let it rip, and then I want Robert to correct you just slightly.
Okay, here we go. This is how
That's what I'm rooting for.
The Rule 5 draft, if you're not familiar, is put in place to protect prospects that are excelling and can be used by other teams but are blocked in their organization. So if Derek Jeter was a shortstop for 20 years, if the Yankees had a shortstop that was doing really well in AA, AAA, and he'd been there for 5 years but didn't crack the 40-man roster, he's eligible to be picked up in the Rule 5 draft, and the Mariners can say, you know what? We have a spot for that guy. We'll take him. The Mariners then have to use him, keep him on their 25-man roster for the entirety of the year, or they return him back to the Yankees. Did I get anything wrong, Robert?
For the most part, you got it all right. There's just some technicalities in there. Just like if the Mariners took a player, they would have to pay the Yankees $50,000.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And in addition to that, there's actually 2 phases of the draft. There's the major league phase, which is the most talked about. And then there's the minor league phase of the draft. So in the minor league phase of the draft, if a player gets selected, they do not have to be returned at all. They are the property of their new organization outright.
So how does someone become eligible for the minor league?
Same rules. It's the same rules for the major league draft. So it's guys that college guys with 4 years experience, or guys 19 or younger with 5 years experience. So right now we see this year a lot of guys from the 2015 international free agent class are starting to become eligible. All the guys from that big 2014 international free agent class are now eligible, and we got a lot of guys from the 2016 draft now eligible from the college side.
So I usually like the Rule 5 draft because it lends itself to trades. Cashman has always trades his Rule 5 guys before they are eligible for Rule 5. We saw that happen in 2017 and 2018 like crazy. Now, we didn't see anyone get traded from 2019, and that's why there's a lot of guys eligible for Rule 5 draft this year, right?
Oh, yeah, and there's a ton. We were talking off air. I don't think I've ever wrote this much about the Rule 5 draft ever, and that's because there's just so many talented guys that are eligible, and I haven't even gotten into the guys that are in the minor league phase that will be eligible.
So how many spots on the 40-man are open?
Right now, 4.
That's all?
That's all.
And how many Rule 5 eligible guys do the Yankees have?
I don't have an exact count, but let's put it this way, it's more than 20.
So I know we're big Brian Hope guys, and I don't know. He tweeted this out today, and he put 6 names on the list. So Brian Hope might have missed something, or maybe we've missed something. But he said that these prospects are no-brainers for the Yankees to protect in the Rule 5 draft, which would mean putting them on the 40-man. And he's got Davey Garcia on there, Estevan Florial, Luis Gil, Nick Nelson, Luis Medina, and Miguel Yajure. Can't be saying that right. Yare. You're right. Hey, we'll take that. You're gonna say it better than us.
You guys don't think it's Yajuri?
Yajuri. Miggy Yaj. So I mean, among those guys, is there
Miggy Yaya?
Is there someone who jumps out to you more or less? I mean, it feels like someone like Davey Garcia, who's the number 1 prospect in the organization. That seems like a no-brainer, but I'll let you take the ball and run with it and kind of your thoughts starting there, and we'll build off of it.
Well, when I wrote my article, I wrote that there's 3 100% must-protect prospects, and that's Davey Garcia, Estevan Florial, and Luis Gil. Those are the top 3 guys in the system, and you could slice it either which way. They have to be protected. I think they got big futures for the Yankees. Even with Florial's injuries, he's such a good prospect, such good tools that you can't give up on him. And I always say prospect fatigue is real. You know, people get tired of hearing these names, and sometimes they give up on a guy way too early. But you have to remember, Florial is only 21 years old.
And if he gets taken in the Rule 5 draft, he'll most likely get injured, and that makes it easier for that team to stash him all year.
Well, if he goes on the DL, the time on the DL does not count towards the Rule 5. So he would have to stay on the 26-man roster for the following season for the time he's on the DL.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So that... Okay. All right, so we think... Is it Davey or Devi?
Davey,
we think he's a lock, right?
I definitely, 100%.
And Florial's a lock. Luis Gil?
Yeah.
Who is he? Can you? I mean, if I don't know who he is, I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that don't know who he is.
The Luises, Jim. We got 2 of them ready to go.
Oh yeah, Medina.
Funky Cold Medina.
Big arms.
What the hell?
How
Are the
long?
Yankees just getting Luises? Luis Sessa, Luis Severino, Luis Gil, Luis Medina.
Yeah.
And these guys throw hard too. Like Luis Medina, Luis Hill can get it up to triple digits. You know, he's a good starting pitching prospect that has the potential to be a front of the rotation guy, but there's a lot of risk there. He ended this season in High A with the Tampa Tarpons, but he spent most of the season with the Charleston River Dogs, and he was just phenomenal throughout the whole season. And just to give you a little bit, I have some notes. You know, Heel was acquired by the Yankees from the Minnesota Twins last offseason for Jake Cave.
Oh.
Gave up Jake Cave and got a potential frontline starter because what the Yankees were able to do with him in his development. And I had the chance to see Heel in 2018 with Staten Island after he came over to the Yankees, and I had the chance to see him again in spring training before this season started. So there's just a lot to like about this kid, and he is such a big time arm for this club. I will like to refer back to check out my article on him. I did a whole series on the must protect prospects, and there's a whole section there on Luis Heel. And you know, we're talking about a guy with such a powerful fastball, such a good arm, and a really good head on his shoulders. He's good. He knows what he's doing, and he's competitive on the mound. And
Okay. Is he above 6 feet tall?
yes, he is.
Nice.
Jimmy's heightest, by the way.
I am very heightest. I'm short myself, very short. But yeah, I do prescribe to starting pitchers under 6 feet have a harder time succeeding. I think that's proven.
No, actually, there was a study done, and they're not less durable. They're given less chances.
Oh, that sounds like some short guy shit. That sounds like something.
I mean, heightest people have been running baseball for years, and John Boy's drank their Kool-Aid, and that's fine.
This other
Interested to see what this new pitching organization can do in the system with these guys, because I'm pretty sure if they are successful, as I hope they are, that we'll see Luis Heel regularly go into the triple digits and jump very quickly throughout the system, because he's a guy that in 2020 will probably spend a considerable amount of time in AA and AAA maybe.
So
Yeah.
let me put you in the hot seat a little bit, because you've got the 3 guys, and that seems to be the consensus around Yankees land: Garcia, Florial, Heel, and they could still do some roster stuff, I believe. Like right now, I think Tyler Lyons is still on the 40-man, and I'm assuming value-wise, like you could let someone like him go and you'd protect one of your bigger prospects. But let's say there was only one more spot after those guys. If you're in the room with the cash man, who would you be slamming the table for? I mean, you could off of that Hoke list. There's Nelson, Medina, Yajuri, our new favorite player, or would there be someone else that's not being talked about that you'd say, Brian, we have to protect him?
There's a couple of guys that I really like. Ronnie Garcia is another guy I really like, who is not getting any of the press that the other Garcias get in the system. But, he's a guy that has a low to mid-90s fastball, but is very smooth on the mound, big competitor, never been injured since he's been in the Yankee system. Since he was signed, he hasn't been injured yet, and he's a workhorse. He's a guy that will probably be a top number 5 starter, but could probably give you 150-plus innings a year. I love guys like that, the pitchability guys like that. If I was going to go more realistically, Yara would be the one I protect in addition to those 3. But there's so many guys I really like. Brooks Kriske is another guy I'm a big fan of, and he's another guy with a big fastball reliever that could probably help the Yankees in 2020 if he doesn't get taken.
His name is Brooks?
Brooks Kriske, yes.
That's a fun name.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose him.
Brooks Kriske.
Yeah. Just look at...
I don't want to lose him. Is that what you just said, Jake? That's a fun name. I don't want to lose him.
Kriske gets frisky, man. Come on.
What about Funky Cold Medina?
I mean, he can't leave. That's not an option.
I'm a big Luis Medina fan, and a lot of that comes from when I've been in minor league spring training the last couple of years, and I've seen him when he's on, seen him when he's off. When he's on, it's special. When he's off, it's disastrous. A lot of it is mental. There's no physical things wrong with his delivery and stuff like that. A lot of it is just purely mental, and that's where a lot of the issues he's had this year. But if you look at the second half he's had this year, it's phenomenal. And I'm hoping he continues that into 2020. But I'm still questioning whether he would stick on a 26-man roster for a full season. I mean, that 26th spot makes it easier to keep a guy like Medina hidden in your bullpen, but I don't know if it still would work out for him that way. But I'm hoping the Yankees make some trades, open up some room so they can add Medina so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. I like that. I don't know who he is. So does it upset you? Like, I know you listen to our show sometimes. I don't know how often. Does it upset you that, like, I'm not a huge prospect guy? And when, like, you're a huge prospect guy?
I don't think you'll find a guy that's more of a prospect guy than me.
Okay.
I don't fault anyone for not being a prospect guy, but I'm also very much of a realist.
Okay.
When it comes down to it, I'm big into this year. I think the Yankees need to go get Cole. We don't have a guy in the system that could match that, and developing an ace starting pitching is hard. And for as much as I love the Yankees, they absolutely sucked at developing an ace starting pitcher. And when a guy like Cole comes on the market, you have to get him, even if it's going to cost us a draft pick next year in the draft and $1 million in international free agent spending. And that's going to be a huge loss for us, but we need a guy like Cole. And like I said, you're not going to find a bigger prospect guy than me. This year alone, I've been to 100 baseball games.
Damn.
Minor league level, and seen over 200 of the Yankees minor league prospects in person. That,
That's a prospect guy.
So I don't watch as much Major League Baseball as because I'm working on the minor league level. It's.
Do you feel betrayed when they get called up? You're like, fine, fucking leave then.
I wish them the best of luck. There's plenty of guys that I've become friends with over the years. I'd be like, I can't wait to see you in the big leagues. One of the guys is like Chase Whitley. Remember him?
Yep. Yeah.
I was at his MLB debut. It was the first time I've actually was at the MLB debut in person of a guy that I covered in the minors, and it was just fun to watch. And for the longest time, up until he made his major league debut, his profile photo across every social media he had was a photo I took of him back when he first became a professional baseball player. Then he switched it to his MLB debut photo. So,
yeah, that's tough. But no, that's awesome. You like minor league baseball a lot more than our friend Clint. with the Rule 5 coming up, and again, there are a couple caveats. I think they have to make final decisions by, what is it, Wednesday?
Wednesday the 20th. That is when
Wednesday the 20th.
deadline.
So, again, there might be some smaller things. Maybe Tyler Lyons, maybe Chance Adams are off. We'll see. We'll find out who's protected. I think they could do like some minor trades. You mentioned Jake Cave was traded to dodge some 40-man stuff. Who's the guy? And you mentioned Ronnie Garcia, and I'm sure there's a couple others that would sting a little because we just talked about your attachment to some of these minor league guys a little bit. Who are going to be the guys that if you find out they're taken in the Rule 5 draft that you're going to be sleeping uneasy about?
You know, if we don't protect Yahweh, that's a guy I would be uneasy about losing, especially for just $50,000. Florial is another guy. I just love his tools, and yeah, he might be a late bloomer, but you know who else was a late bloomer? Gary Sanchez. Sanchez was very far away when he was added to the 40-man roster, and he needed all 3 option years in the minors to become what he is now. Granted, he's had his struggles, but you know, it happens. It doesn't mean the guy's less of a prospect. It just means prospect fatigue is real. There's a few other guys that I really like that are Rule 5 eligible. Guys like Daniel Alvarez, who a reliever that does not get any press, but is a good guy and a good player that might be beneficial for him to be taken in the Rule 5 draft because I don't see him getting a shot with the Yankees. And there's a lot of those guys out there where I really like them. I wish they could be Yankees, but I see the Rule 5 draft as an opportunity for them to finally live their dream and play in the major leagues. The one that really stung for me back in the past was Luis Torrens, catcher a few years ago, was taken out of Class A by the San Diego Padres, and they kept him on the 25-man roster the whole year.
That's right. That was the year they took a couple of those guys just because they were kind of like trying something new, right? They were just like, hey, let's bring them in. We're going to suck.
As much as I hate them for doing that and costing Torrens a good developmental year, I'm happy for the guy because he got that MLB payday, he got that health insurance for life, and all that other fun stuff. Now we'll see what happens because I think he's running out of options. But, that's the nature of baseball.
Oh, sorry. I had a question about Gary, but then I realized I'm just asking about Gary because I love Gary. But I kind of wanted to just pick your brain a little bit on 2 guys that came to mind. Ref Schneider. Did you think you're never a big fan of Ref Schneider?
No.
Okay.
That was all media hype right there.
Okay. Yeah, that's I was wondering because I still thought they treated him like kind of crappy because he came up and he played well for like 20 games, but they never believed in him. So you think it was fine that they never like truly believed in him?
It was known.
Okay. And then Gary gets this bad rep that he was such a troublemaker when he was like 16 years old and he never did anything and he was like a pain in the ass. And Ref Schneider kind of said a quote about Gary that I always liked that he said like, once you realize who Gary is, you realize just who he is. But for a little bit, it seems like he doesn't care. Then you realize, oh no, that's just how Gary is all the time. Do you have any fun stories or insight about like a young Gary? Was he a troublemaker? Was he this like shitty kid kind of, or was it just
he was a shitty kid, but he was definitely a kid. You give a 16-year-old millions of dollars, what do you expect is going to happen? When it comes down to like big thing for him was when he had his child, that really calmed him down. And that was when he was in AA, and he really got his shit together at that point. But I was always a big fan of Gary. And when I first saw Gary, he was a 17-year-old kid, and I got plenty of photos of a baby-faced Gary Sanchez that I could show you. Just you see the talent when you were watching him at that age. Again, this was when we had Jesus Montero ahead of him, and everyone was like, keep them away from each other because we don't want Gary Sanchez going down that same path. And I'm glad Gary turned it around.
Wow.
Because if he didn't, he probably would have been on the same path as Jesus Montero. But he is not a bad guy. He was never really bad person. He was a kid, and that's what it comes down to. You got to be.
That's
I can't judge these guys as a good adult.
That's what I say. And then we'd be remiss not to ask about Judge since it's a Yankees podcast and everyone loves Judge. Does he always have the perfect answers? Was he always so slow and to process his thoughts. Like, is that the Judge you knew? Because we know there's another side to this dude. Like, Judge loves to shit talk, but he just is really good about covering his mouth and being quiet about it. Is there a different side to Judge, or the guy that we see in the majors, in the press conferences, is that who you saw coming up?
Coming up, he was very much like he is. They were training him, and you could tell they were making sure he understood this stuff. They have what is called the Major League Baseball Youth Development. I forgot the actual name, but prospect development something. And they sent Judge there his first year in the minors after he got drafted. So he learned early on how to really speak to the media, and that was a big thing for him because they knew he was something special.
That's smart. Yeah, because he's Derek Jeter Part 2. So he is. Yeah.
He's the future captain of this team, in my opinion.
I heard that. I heard a rumor, I'll say, that Judge loved, and like he kind of does. You see him with like the sale killer and like some of these quotes that Judge in like 2018 when they were having a lot that walk-off session, like he would just walk around going, "We fucking love closers. We fucking love closers." Like just muttering it to himself. And like someone told me like, "Nah, Judge." And for anyone listening, there's an awkward pause because we got cut off. But where it got cut off is I was just ending saying that Judge is, I heard rumors that he's kind of a shit talker. I don't know if you had a response to that or where you guys took the convo once I got booted.
I got nothing about Judge being a shit talker. A lot of the times, once the media comes into the locker room at the end of the game, they've already got their stuff out their system and they've had their fun. So,
Jim, I
10-15 minutes before you go into the locker room after the game. So, you gotta give them their time.
Jim, I kept it rolling because I am a true professional, as
yes.
you know.
Yes.
As I try to bite my tongue on all the Bobby Pimp jokes I can possibly make, but we we headed into a fun area, and it's something that the light bulb went off earlier, and it was something Robert said, and it's something we've talked about. It's the young pitchers that are on the fringe in this organization. These are the guys that have to be most excited about the Yankees revamping their whole pitching system, that if they can learn one or two new things, or if they can add a mile per hour or whatever they can do. The guys like Michael King and Johnny Loizaga, we talked about him a little bit. Well, we're going to talk about it again. And Albert Abreu, I also asked, because this was the line I used, was he feels like if you find a fake Yankee trade online, Albert Abreu will be in there because he's just like a pitching prospect. But I haven't heard too much about him. But I'll hand it off because Robert hit something that I was kind of like a whoa moment for me with Michael King.
So we go through that again?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're running it back, baby.
Well, I'm a big Michael King fan, and if you go back and listen to any interview I've done talking about the Yankees minors or articles I've written about King, one of the big things that strikes me, not just because of his performance on the field, it's the preparation he puts into every start. And in the minor league level, we have all the data that they have at the major league level on our opponents. It's just not publicly available. There is no publicly available, spin rate, velo data, or all that fun stuff. But it is all available to all these players. And Michael King is a guy that has a notebook and goes through and is meticulous about it. He gets all of his notes on every guy he's possibly going to face in the game. So he has a game plan to go out there. He does his own scouting reports. He puts everything together himself. And one of the big things, and this is the reason you'll hear Michael King's name a lot when it comes to the major league level, is that he's a product of Cressley. He knows Matt from his work at Cressley. So he's a guy that everyone there knows about. So he's a guy that could really be a big part of this Yankees back of the rotation for this coming season.
He's a guy from where?
Cressley.
What's that?
The pitching institute that Matt Blake came from.
Oh, Matt Blake.
Wow. So they know each other. They've worked together. So he knows exactly what King can do. And there's a lot of potential there. And not just because he's got good stuff. There's plenty of guys with better raw stuff. But when it comes to King, his preparation is second to none.
Jake, didn't you tell me that Matt Blake like mentioned Michael King as someone he's excited to work with?
I had no actual information. I was just thinking about being around the team, but Mike King has been this fast riser in the organization. He's had some crazy impressive years in the minor leagues. And I'm not going to play a teacher's pet card, but the relationships there, I'll reverse John Boy it. I would say if Michael King at some point gets traded, massive red flag because Matt Blake knows this guy super well. But otherwise, if I'm Michael King, I mean, I'm through the roof right now. I've had a meteoric rise through the minor leagues, and now I just get linked up with a pitching coach I've worked with for years. I mean, that's got all the makings right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to mention all the changes in the pitching staff at the minor league level. There's a lot there.
Yeah. So now I'm a Michael King fan, officially. The
Wow.
guy keeps a notebook. You know who else keeps a notebook? Giancarlo Stanton. What if they, King gets called up and they share notes and maybe they get their notes mixed up and then Stan's prepping to throw pitches?
It's baseball. You never know what could happen.
Yeah.
At one point, they'll need an extra picture.
What's your favorite minor league promotion you've seen?
Minor league promotion as in what?
Like to get people to come to the stands or like an in-game event.
All right.
You like Rookie the Bat Dog?
I'm a big Rookie fan. I love Rookie. How can you not love Rookie? Best minor league promotion. I've seen weddings. I've seen, we got the famous pizza rats. We got the pork rolls. I'm always a big fan of bobbleheads.
Okay.
I thought the question was going to be favorite promotion, like you saw someone get promoted and they either like freaked out or they started bawling or something like that. Do you have one double promotion question?
About promotion, I don't want to give away names, but this year we actually there was a player that at media day came to me because I'm a team photographer in Staten Island as well, and telling me about he's proposing to his girlfriend when she comes up. So he was actually set to be promoted, and they held off the promotion for a couple of weeks, so this can happen, and it was just incredible. So as soon as he proposed that night, he got the call up to the next level.
Crazy.
You can't tell John Boy that without him finding
Yeah,
out,
find out who that was
in the next hour, right?
See, Jake knows. All these Astros fans, they just don't know that this is who I've been for 10 years.
Yeah. That was too much information. We thank you for it. That's pretty wild.
That is probably one of my favorite promotion stories ever.
Wow.
I'm surprised you haven't asked about rehabs.
Oh, rehab assignments. I heard this, and we'll give him a good name. I heard Gio Gonzalez was absolutely amazing when he was in AAA for the Yankees to the start of last year. Like, got everyone cleats, stayed at the house with guys, bought them dinner. Like, I heard from one guy that he was really, really good. Is that usually the case? Do you find some are come down and they're pissy during rehab, or are a lot they understand the grind and give back to the kids?
Most of them understand the grind to give back to the kids. There's a lot of traditions when it comes to rehab, like the major league rehabber pays for dinner. I could actually, a couple years ago in Staten Island short season Class A, Eric Swanson and Mike Ford came down for rehab, and they were not major league guys at the time, but both of them spent time in major league spring training, and they combined and worked out a way to treat the team, and single A teams are 35 men each, to a good dinner, something better than they usually have, and because that was the type of guys they were. They remember how it was in the low minors. And, so they pulled everything together, worked with the clubby, and got them a good meal for a day. There's also, Tommy Pham. He was rehabbing with the Hudson Valley Renegades when they came to Staten Island one day, and he bought Outback for the entire team, had it delivered to the stadium, for the Hudson Valley Renegades, and got a pretty decent amount for a cheap price. Because he's Tommy Pham.
That's pretty cool.
There's a lot of fun stories about that. And then going back to 2003, I remember Kevin Brown. Everyone said the same thing. He was a complete jackass. And I'll tell you that story off air.
Okay,
You've
great. You're right.
you've had a couple quotes that have reminded me of old high school teachers. The complete jackass talking about guys not living up to their potential if they had their head on straight. I'm like shaking over here.
Yeah,
you
you
described
described
Jake
Jake in a lot of ways.
I talk like an old guy.
Jake was destined to go on Stump the Schwab and beat him, and then he just like didn't live up to his potential.
I just never put in that work. I don't know. I think the only other thing that I really have prospect-wise that I think a lot of Yankee fans would be wondering about are, like you said, I mean, the really young guys with, like, crazy potential, and that's where the Yankees organization has kind of been for a little while now. I know me and John Boy, we have one guy on our no-trade list. That's the Martian, Jason Dominguez. If you have a cool nickname, we can't trade you. And I don't know. I'm sure you must get so much stuff on him, especially when those articles came out. But I guess some of the younger pictures or younger hitters, excuse me, because I know Siegler was the first last year. He had a rough year, and I'd actually love to hear your opinions on that. Do you just chalk it up for a rough year, or are there major question marks? And then Volpe, the first-round pick that everyone fell in love with, a shortstop from Jersey. Oh, boy. But yeah, I don't know. So some of those thoughts on those really young prospects, and obviously everyone wants to hear about the Martian.
Well, when it comes down to it, guys like Siegler and Volpe, there's still a lot of question marks about what their potential is. I'm not sure if Siegler is going to be an all-star catcher or if he stays at catcher yet. I'm not sure if Volpe's more of a utility guy or guy similar to Kyle Holder-ish than an all-star shortstop. There's still a lot of question marks there, and that's where it comes, like, ranking prospects and understanding these guys is a lot different than many people might think. It's not going off of stats, because I'll give you this. Here's my personal view. Stats in the minor leagues mean absolutely nothing, especially below AA. You cannot tell a prospect status by how they perform in games, because there's so much that goes into it. And a lot of this goes back to, like, I've been to 100 games this year total, and that's not, I've been to 100 games. I'm at the ballpark at 3 p.m. for a 7 p.m. game because I'm there watching practice and watching these guys work and getting that information, because that informs a lot. And I'm networking with scouts, networking with coaches and everything to get all the information I can. And a lot of prospect guys do that. Not many people understand. It's expensive to cover the minor league system.
Yeah.
It's a lot of travel. Last year I spent a month down in Tampa for minor league spring training, so I could see all 200 guys they had in camp. A lot comes out of that. But guys like Volpe, I haven't seen Volpe in person, so I'm hesitant to even talk about him like that and stuff like that. I know what's relayed to me via scouts, via footage I've seen, publicly available footage and private footage I've seen. Siegler, when I was down in spring training, he was hurt, so I didn't get a chance to see him play down there. I've seen some of his action in Charleston. It's tough because, when it comes down to it, Class A is such a crapshoot. There's so much stuff that could go wrong. And I'm not going to give up on a guy for how they perform in Class A at all.
That makes sense.
Especially when I know how the minors work. Yeah. Especially when it comes to pitchers. I'll go into that a little bit. But Dominguez, here's the number one thing I want everyone to remember when it comes to guys from the DR. 90% of the publicly available information that comes out on international free agent signees is complete BS. It's marketing material from their Buscones to get them signed. So that's why I'm always hesitant about highly ranking and getting highly hyped about a kid that has not played a professional game yet, because we don't have data on him from TrackMan or any of this other stuff that we can actually generate, data and point and prospect analysis on him. There's nothing out there yet. But from what I'm told from people I trust, and there's very few people I trust when it comes to prospect evaluation, he's the real deal. He's probably the best international free agent guy they've signed ever.
So MLB by 19.
It's possible. It is 100% possible, but I'm 100% hesitant to say something like that. Definitely, until I see him in person.
That makes sense.
And I've seen the videos of him. It's crazy. He's a boy in a man's body, essentially.
Jake's the opposite.
Yeah.
You gotta be very hesitant and careful with the information out there and the hype that gets come up from it, because a lot of information from these guys in the DR is marketing from their Buscones to get them signed.
Well, good for them. It works, I guess, and a lot of them get signed. So someone asked us a while ago, like, where is he? Like, what's he doing? And Joe's McFly actually said they go to a Dominican, like, the Yankees have basically like a college, like a 1 year like camp where they just teach them kind of like English, about being a professional, like life skills, and that's the first thing.
So, and a lot of these guys, Yankees push them to get their high school degree, and they teach English as a second language to all the international players. They teach Spanish as a second language to all the American guys. There's a lot of nutritional classes. They get cooking classes. They learn about how to take care of themselves. They're available to mental health coaches. The Yankees have a very good mental health staff.
That's cool.
There's a lot out there. Right now, the guys that are down in Tampa, are finishing up strength camp, which is, working out and all that fun stuff, and bulking up for the season. Dominguez, after he signed, he went to what's called the Tricky League, which is sort of like a abbreviated season for guys that just signed in the international free agent market. They're not official games. It's sort of like extended spring training, not official games. There's very loose rules, so to speak, but they get in-game action and face competition from the other teams around the area.
The Tricky League. I like the name of that. Who's the guy you've seen? Because an old adage or whatever is that the guys with raw talent don't always make it, because you can't just make it to the MLB on raw talent, because it's such a grind. You need to put in the hard work and prepare and prep and be there every day. So you need the raw talent and you need to put in the work to make it to the MLB. Is there like a guy who you thought, like, this guy is special? And I don't mean to like knock him for not putting in the work, but is there a guy you were like, holy crap, if that guy could harness it? Was Jesus Montero kind of like that?
Jesus Montero is definitely like that. Jorge Mateo, big that. I wish he was able to put things together quickly and everything. There's so many guys that I've seen where I'm like, oh my god, if they were throwing high 90s but dumb as hell and couldn't put it together. I'm like, damn it, if they could, if only they could. And I've seen so many guys that do not have that kind of stuff, but put in the hard work and they make it up to the major leagues, like guys like Pat and Diddy.
One more question, and I think we got to wrap this up. Were you surprised by Jordan Montgomery getting the 5th starter in 2017 and then excelling? Because I think a lot of Yankee fans were. Did you see that coming at all?
Not that quickly. I was expecting him to go to AAA for a little bit, because I did not have the faith in the Yankees that they would give him that chance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I believe he had the stuff, and I am a big Monty fan. Not just because I'm a left-hander, but I think he has what it takes to be a good major league starter.
Awesome. Jake, you got any more?
I don't think so, man. That's awesome stuff. Again, like I'm normally fending off this dude from Prospect Trash Talk. But no, I mean, there's so much of it that it's the lifeblood of the organization nowadays. But it's so tough to sort through it, because even like you said with Jason Dominguez, there's people out there on the line that swear by him right now and have seen like him take one swing and being like, "Yep, here he comes." No, would trade him for Lindor? Are you insane? And it's still. It's shocking how crazy that world is to me.
Yeah. I don't know. Jake was talking, and then we had an interruption in technology, but now we're all back. He said, Jake's here. He said, Jake, what were you saying? It was shocking. I lost you for a second.
It's all love, baby.
What we didn't talk about, and that this shouldn't be the way to end it, is Davey Garcia. I know, Robert, that you are a big believer. You think he's different than Chance Adams and Justin Sheffield. I remain that until he is different, he's the same in my mind, because it just feels the same as the way they hyped those guys up. Now, I haven't seen any of them pitch, so like I know I'm speaking at a turn. I'm just literally going off the Yankees hype machine. But you've seen them pitch, and you say Davey's the real deal, right?
I'm a big Davey Garcia fan, and a lot of that comes from, I had the chance to see him, and I've been high on this kid since I saw him a couple of years ago for the first time. And, coming into this season, he was a 3-pitch pitcher. Now he's a 4-pitch pitcher, a legit 4-pitch pitcher. His fastball is 92, 94. Let me pull up I could pull up the exact numbers right now. And, he gets it up to 97 miles an hour, and he's still young. He's 20 years old. And I had this conversation with a scout about him. We were going over data on Davey Garcia, and we were like, you know what? There's still projection left in his body. Even at 20, even at pitching in AAA, he could still put on some weight, add some regular velocity, so he could get it up there a little bit higher. And, he's got a curveball right now. And scouting grades plus is phenomenal. That's best you can get. And his slider, which he just developed by himself, working with Jose Rosado, one of the few remaining pitching coaches that are still in the system. And, he developed that slider. He wanted to make it, and that is a true slider, and it is something that has plus potential, and it's going to be a big key for him to staying as a starter and maybe pushing his projection to a number 2 starter versus number 3 starter right now. And, he has a really good changeup too. That's about average. But, one of the things you got to remember, he's still only 20 years old. He doesn't turn 21 until May. So there's plenty of time left for him to grow and add more velocity to that. He's pretty durable. One thing you got to remember, this is his first season throwing over 100 innings, because they went slow with him. Mm-hmm. And he's going to need time to build that up a little bit. So maybe this year, 2020, he stays in AAA, gets 150, 160 innings, which isn't bad. Maybe a cup of coffee in the majors, but you give him the time to develop. And, even if he gets hit for the first couple of games in the majors, stick with him, let him learn, because you're not going to be able to learn how to face major league hitters in AAA. You're only going to learn how to face AAA hitters in AAA. Major League is a completely different animal, even with the change in the ball.
Yeah, you can't age out of the MLB, or you can't grade out of the MLB. It's just the best of the best, so it's always kind of different. But all right, we really appreciate you coming on, man. It's great to have someone with insight. Everyone kind of loves this prospect stuff, and knowing it's kind of cool that you get to know the guys before they're the guys we know. That's what I always find interesting. Like, who was Judge? Because once he hit that 2017 season, he changed his life forever. And getting to see the insight into who he is beforehand and all these other guys is really cool. So we appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us. We'll follow the Rule 5 draft. Everyone's more informed now. And we'll have to have you back on later on to see who gets taken or some updates or what have you.
Who gets traded. That's going to be a big thing.
Yeah, that'll be big as well. All right, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime.
All right. Thank you guys very much. Thank you for listening. Go follow Robert on Twitter. I believe, what's his Twitter account? I had it up. It's, is it Robert Pimpsner? He's a Patreon member. He listens to Talkin' Yanks. R. Pimpsner. So we appreciate him coming on. Like I said at the end there, Jake, I am kind of jealous, like, that he gets to know the band before they're famous.
Yeah, man. I mean, he knows. I mean, it's part of what we try to do on Talkin' Yanks. It's bring these guys' personalities to life, and he, actually knows.
Yeah. But I'm not jealous that once the band becomes famous, he's not allowed to watch anymore because he's basically so busy watching minor league games.
Yeah, that's tough. That's dedication, Holmes.
Yeah. So if you haven't been to his website, it's pinstripedprospect.com. And if you go to Pinstripe Prospect /membership, you can sign up. I think it's like $7 a month, and you get full coverage. I know there's some of you that absolutely love this shit. So sign up, and you'll learn all about it, and you can impress all your Yankees friends that you know more about the minor league system than them. And if you go to his Twitter account, @Pimpsner, you can find a bunch of jerseys he's giving away if you sign up for the membership. He's got, what was it, like minor league all-star jerseys, Thunder jerseys. Kind of, if you're a jersey collector or just like cool jerseys of the Yankees realm, that's pretty awesome. It's right there for you.
Unique stuff.
I used to rock a Staten Island Yankees hat a lot in college. I like that. I like the minor league hats. I think they're pretty cool to have. Because I won't wear another team's hat. So I get Yankees hats or Yankees affiliates hats. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm excited. I still remember this from one of my 2 trips to Cooperstown, is that they have a store with all the minor league teams' hats, and it's just like you feel like you've walked into a religious area. It's like, oh.
That's pretty cool. I used to wear a Cubs hat when I played softball because I would sweat in it and it would get gross.
Ha!
Yeah,
wow, Trader John boy.
I'm not going to sweat in my Yankees hat, Jake.
You got to get a sweat hat and you got to get a wearing hat.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be playing some baseball. Should we tell the Talkin' Yanks fans about this trip?
Yeah, guess we can give them a little insight. We're going west.
Going to California. We're going to California to hang out with Easton.
They make your gloves. They make your bats. They make your hats. Maybe.
They're having a bunch of content creators go and make content with each other at their facilities. I think some Barstool guys will be there, Fuzzy from YouTube, a bunch of other content creators. Jake and I will be there. It seems like they have some fucking crazy shit set up for us to do, like a skills competition. I think some players are supposed to be there. I think Bregman's supposed to be there, which would now be very awkward for me /fun. So make sure to follow us on Instagram. We're going to be doing a lot of Instagram stories, Talkin' Yanks. Follow us on Twitter. If we can get some podcast material, we might get some, but it doesn't seem to fit that. The YouTube will have some coverage. So enjoy.
Yeah, I think it's going to end up being pretty silly. We're supposed to partake in baseball activities. I threw a baseball against a wall a little bit today. That must have been a pretty funny image for some people in my building. Why is the kid in the Yukon jersey throwing a baseball against a wall to himself? And that's tough, but that's 30 for me.
That is there. I didn't do that, so I'm just going to hurt myself. When I played softball at the beginning of every game, the first game of the league, the first time I ran to first, I pulled a hamstring. I could stretch.
Yeah.
I could stretch and run as much as possible, but once those like game speed kicked in, hamstring gone. So I expect to pull a hamstring right away.
Exciting.
Yeah. All right. Go Yanks. Tell them, Grams.
Go Yankees.